4X map games cured my ADHD, is what I would say if I was a clickbaiter. No. What it did do, though, was teach me a lot of things. So sit back, relax, I'm going to rant for a few minutes on why I think more people should play map games, especially people who have difficulty focusing. One thing that I've really noticed in playing map games, specifically, games focused around this sort of map that you see on a screen, it does not have to be medieval, it could be space, it could be any sort of map, any sort of RPG mechanic where you're building up from the beginnings and you're going through a time period and you're building an empire or you're exploring or whatever the starting point is. I found it fascinating that I focus better on something like this than I can on many other pursuits in my life. Things that are critically important to me, things that define who I am, I can't focus on. So I really looked to understand why that is. What is causing me to not be able to focus on those things, but be able to focus for hours on something like this. A couple of fascinating things and why I think people should spend time playing something like this or finding a pursuit that allows you to focus like this. It helps rewire you back in the other direction. Your brain is always flexible and always learning. And so you need to continue to rewire yourself to be able to focus. What's so good about something like this, beyond the level of just focus, is primarily the decision-making process that comes out of a game like this. Now, I'm not saying everyone has to be a game theorist. I'm not saying everyone has to make optimal decisions. I'm not a min-maxer in these games. I am not a person who has to have the biggest country at the end of the game. I don't have to be the richest. I don't have to be the most powerful. And you can see right now I have 0 manpower. If you play Europa Universalis 4 and you have 0 manpower, you're probably not doing that great, actually. You should probably be doing a little better, or maybe not fighting as many wars, right? But I make specific choices, and I logically think through the choice, and I'm able to live with the consequences of that decision. Just as you would in real life. If you're trying to choose a decision target in real life, you have to be able to project what the consequence of that decision is going to look like. That is what something like this allows you to do. And it requires focus. It requires you to not be distracted when you're making a decision. And that is exactly what you have to do in your day-to-day life when you're doing something like working or you're doing something like paying your taxes. You need to be sure that you have focused in on all the things that go into that, because if you do it wrong, there are negative consequences. I'm playing as Portugal in this game, for instance. I've made a lot of decisions. Okay? I'm in Africa. I am, in Argentina, in Peru, in Chile. I am in the United States. I'm in Canada. I'm in Alaska. I'm in Siberia. I'm going into China. Like, I've made all these decisions. I mean, I'm in the East Indies. I have a bunch of the East Indies. We're in 1668. The game started about 200 years ago. And I've made a large balance of decisions. And it's put me as, the game's rated me 4th best so far. I'm 4th best. So I've done okay. I think that understanding the consequences of your decisions helps you to be better at real life decision making. Once again, what does it go back to? It goes back to focus. It goes back to, I need to understand the mechanics of what is happening in the game, and then look at what I can and cannot do and make decisions and be able to live with the consequences of those actions. Those are all very key. In the same way, in real life, you're going to have to know the mechanics of whatever you're doing, whether it be changing a light bulb. I don't want to have the light on when I'm screwing in this light bulb because I could electrocute myself when I replace this light bulb. Something that simple. There's a decision you have to make there. And if you're not thinking and focused on, all right, is the power off when I'm doing this, you can actually hurt yourself. So whether it's something very simple like that or something very detailed like a decision matrix, if you're in a large company and you're trying to decide what the best course of action is for a company for the next 5 years, there are so many data points in that decision that it requires you to look at all of them and be able to rationally think through the decision. Doesn't mean you're going to pick the best one. You're not a game theorist. We're not doing Bayes-Nash equilibria. I'm not doing that here. I'm not worried about the probability of success or optimization. I'm worried about having fun. However, the techniques I'm using to get to my end point help me to optimize in real life. The ideas I'm learning from this and reinforcing as I play games like this with so many decision trees, with so many ways to go, with so many different things that you can do, with so many different choices and policies and missions, religions and militaries and opinions between colonies and main countries and all these sort of things. You can make infinite decisions. That requires you to focus. What I find very interesting about games like this, like map games, is that I'm able to focus much better in a game like this than in many other things. And I believe it's because of the amount of decisions that I'm having to make to get to an outcome. For instance, I have 3 colonies and a 4th colony on the way, I believe. So I have 4 colonies. Well, why did I do this versus why didn't I go more over here? That was a decision I made. I made a decision to go this way. You know, why have I gone into Siberia? Well, I can colonize all these. These are colonizable, right? So I could also go for that. But why am I instead going down here? What decision am I making? Well, if you look logically, this one example, I'm cutting these guys off from expanding, so I get guaranteed this land. They can't expand in that land. I have it now, and my colony gets bigger. You look at something like ideas and decisions. Which decisions did you pick? Well, in my case, in this game, I went expansion, exploration, economic to start. What does that mean? It means I can expand outward. At the beginning of the game, I can't fight Spain. Logically, I can't fight Spain. I'm Portugal. I'm too small. They're my friends, but I can't fight them. So I can't expand really in Europe. I have to expand. I expand into the Maghreb, into Northern Africa. I can do that, but it's not enough to get big. And it's not really that. These aren't super rich territory. I had to make a decision. I said, I need to colonize, which is going to allow me to grow. As I grow, I went into quality, which helped me not only with fighting, so I could fight better, but also did a couple of key things with my ship. And I went into maritime to continue to get more ships. So why did I do that? Well, if you look at something on this ledger, let's look at the economy. I have the most trade in the game. I'm not the strongest country in the game at this point. I'm not. But I have the most trade in the game because I invested in ships, because I know the mechanic of trade. And I know that if I can get my home trade node to have lots of money in there, then the people who will collect from that trade node, which is me and my competitor, Spain, because they're both there, will make lots of money. And that is how I can make money without necessarily having to have the strongest army or have the most territory. I can make lots of money, and now I can expand like crazy. And now I don't have to fight direct fights. I can go to Indonesia. I can go to the Philippines. I can go to China. I can go to South America. I can go to North America. I have all of these choices. I can go to Africa. I can fight Mali. I can go down here and fight Congo if I choose, or Kilwa, or eventually the Ottomans. I can do all of those things because I have enough money now to invest in everything. I can build up my territory. I can build up my development so I can build more buildings, which give me more perks. All these things are predicated on the decision I made early on in the game. This is one way you can do it. You do not have to do this. You do not have to be friends with Spain. I've seen plenty of walkthroughs where people choose to ally France. You see, France is basically gone because they didn't get good allies in this game. You can ally France and attack Spain with France. And heck, you could even ally Great Britain and France. I've done that before in a prior playthrough. There are so many choices you can make. You could not be colonizers. I mean, this is definitely different than history. This used to be British Columbia, but doesn't exist. But Britain barely colonized. France didn't colonize really at all. They got crushed. I mean, they had like two pieces of land down here. That was it. They did nothing. It was just Portugal and Spain. That's one outcome. And that's what's fascinating about this, is that I focused in on a logical conclusion and I went with the strategy. Was it the most successful strategy? Was it min-maxing? No. Am I having tons of fun? Can you tell? I'm like super jazzed about this. I'm having tons of fun. I have like 200 years left. You best believe I'm going to spend another 10 to 15 to 20 hours playing the last 200 years. I play really slow and think through everything. This sort of focus, this sort of energy is what I look for in everything in my day-to-day. And it's amazing that I'm able to find it in something like this. Any of you out there who enjoy strategy games, who can't find that focus, are looking for a way to rediscover what that feels like, what that energy feels like, try out a 4X game like this. doesn't have to be Europa Universalis 4. You can try something new. They released Victoria 3 recently. I think Europa Universalis 5 is coming out soon. Crusader Kings 3 is a great game that you can play as a leader instead of a country and do all sorts of crazy things. You can play space games. There's sci-fi games. There's so many different games in this genre. The ability to look through and make decisions based upon a whole bunch of factors, including technology and trade and expansion and exploration, it's going to spark something. I really believe it will. It's going to spark something. You're going to be astonished by, oh, this is what it feels like. No stimulants. I'm not taking any, no drugs to calm me down. Nothing to get me up and get me energized. It's just me, flat normal, playing a game, super jazzed about it. This is the way I want to feel every single day about anything I'm pursuing. A game like this, by allowing me to focus, is exactly what I want, and I hope anyone listening can find it too. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.